Good afternoon and welcome to the daily briefing at the St. Clair County EMA office, where we bring you the latest update numbers on our COVID fight against the invisible enemy. I'm here with Chairman Mark Kern. And Sam, we have some good news and still some bad news on numbers.
We do. We've got some areas that we're very excited about, and then some numbers that we'll talk about that are higher than we would like to see them. So as of today, 38,659 St. Clair County residents have been tested for COVID-19, which is an increase of 1,405 from yesterday. We are at 4,074 positive test results, which is an increase of 59 from yesterday, and that does include both males and females from their teens up to their 90s. And our county positivity rate today is 4.2%, so we're very excited about that. We are at 34,585 negative test results, and still currently at 155 deaths, so no new reports in that category. For those that have completed their IDPH required 14-day quarantine period, we are at 2,983. For state totals, 2,849,395 have been tested, with 184,712 that are positive, which is an increase of 1,471 from yesterday. And for deaths, the state is reporting 7,545, which is an increase of 19 from yesterday. For our hospitalization numbers, and these are for hospitals that are in St. Clair County, currently we have 58 patients that are admitted due to COVID-related reasons, and that has been our highest number for hospitalized patients since June 4th. So that's one of our numbers we're not too happy about. And patients that are currently on ventilators, we are at 3. For congregate living facilities that are in outbreak status, and that is 2 or more staff or residents that are either COVID positive or who have COVID-like symptoms, we only have 3 facilities that have had changes, so we will only report those. The Esquilin Dammert Center at the Shrine has 2 cases and no deaths, which is an increase of 1. Integrity Healthcare in Belleville has 7 cases and no deaths, which is also an increase of 1 case. And Lebanon Care Center in Lebanon has 60 cases and 11 deaths, and also 1 additional case. So now I will turn it over to Chairman Kern for his update.
Thank you, Sam. We'll move into the zip code report at this time. So remember, these are the number of COVID positive cases in these particular zip codes. Mostly the numbers go up. Occasionally there is one that goes down, and that's because someone moves. There are changes in their residence zip codes, so then we subtract a number just to keep our numbers as accurate as possible. In 62059, we go down 1 today to 10. 62201 goes up 1 to 187. 62203 goes up 1 to 153. 62204 goes up 1 to 116. 62205 goes up 2 to 152. 62206 goes up by 2 today to 345. 62207 remains the same at 201. In 62208, we go up 7 today to 261. 62220 goes up 5 to 335. 62221 goes up by 9 to 361. 62223 goes up by 5 to 181. In 62225, we stay the same at 17. 62226 goes up by 4 today to 416. 62232 goes up by 2 to 86. 62239 goes up by 3 to 48. 62240 goes up 1 to 15. 62243 remains the same at 27. 62254 goes up by 4 to 125. 62255 goes up or remains the same today at 13. 62257 remains the same at 22. 62258 goes up by 2 to 64. 62260 goes up by 2 to 53. 62264 remains the same at 68. 62269 goes up by 3 to 286. And 62285 stays the same today at 37. Also today, we note with the age breakdown, once again, people under 40 are about half of the numbers that come out today. So it's important that we get that message out to the younger set that they need to pay attention to the 3 W's, wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. As we've been doing for the past week and a half, we've been talking about schools, and it's important what's going to happen to our kids when they go back to school this fall, how their school's going to be treating COVID. And so today we're lucky that we've got Dave Dietz with us. He's the superintendent of District 175, Harmony MG School District. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
So I guess we'll dig right in. From what I understand, I think you're going to be using a hybrid system in your district?
It will. Not so much as a hybrid system, but kind of a blended system with early dismissal and remote learning in the afternoon. So, our plan was really created after a lot of discussions and hard work, multiple surveys that were sent out to parents and staff, countless meetings with various groups. I can't begin to tell you how many meetings we've had virtually. And also really sticking to the IDPH and ISBE guidelines, which, unless things change in the next 2 weeks, which they could, does still call for in-person as much as possible. So we understand that we have to be flexible in our plan, that as new information comes out and new numbers and new data, even if guidelines change, that we need to be flexible. And as much as I hate to tell our community that the plan could change, the sad reality is that it might. It might next week, it might a month from now or 3 months from now, that we have to be able to adapt to the situations. But as of right now, our plan is that we are offering in-person to students who choose in-person, as well as a remote learning option for those who just aren't comfortable yet of doing a remote learning. So, are comfortable of coming in-person. So we have the remote learning option for them. And I am proud of the plan we have of striking that balance between safety for our students and staff, but also our mission of educating kids. So
if a student is going to school, and they walk in,
Yep.
Tell me how it's going to differ from the last time they walked through the doors of your school.
So the students who choose in-person learning, it'll be 5 days a week still with staggered early dismissal times. So every day we will have an early dismissal. And what that is going to do is not only help with distancing in the afternoon for a couple of different reasons, but it's going to allow for our remote learning opportunities too. The teachers will have the opportunity to engage with students on a daily basis. That's something that came out from the springtime, was the lack of consistency, the lack of consistent expectations from teacher to teacher or grade level to grade level. And so we took that feedback from spring, we've incorporated it into our fall plan. And so the early dismissal will not only help with distancing measures, but provide that time for remote learning as well. And that's really important for us. But it's also important to know that remote learning is going to look very different than it did in the springtime for those who choose it. In addition to attendance and grades counting, that wellness checks, something that we were really concerned about and I think has been very underreported in a lot of news agencies, is the social emotional health of kids during the pandemic and the mental trauma that students and families go through. So in addition to hiring an additional school psychologist for this year, we have also incorporated within our remote plan regular wellness checks. Just how are you doing, and if they're not doing well, having the staff and support to reach out and see what we can do better. It's always been a foundation at Harmony 175 of building relationships, and so even in a remote situation, we need to find a way to do that.
So will the remote learners see the same lesson so will it be
It will.
streamed live?
Yeah, and to go back to your question of the in-person, what it's going to look like, it's going to look very different in person. Outside of the early dismissals, we have markers and arrows all throughout our hallways that talk about what is 6 feet and arrows, staggered dismissal times. We're not using lockers.
You can take temperatures when they walk
So
through the
we're going to do
door?
a self-certification of, we're not doing the temperatures. The parents and staff will all self-certify prior to coming to school. So those will look different, but in terms of the expectations, that's a really key point that we also took from the springtime. We have a heavy emphasis on Google Classroom. And so whether you're in person or you're remote, everything is done through Google Classroom and the Google suite of education apps, so that, one, our teachers are planning efficiently, They're not creating something for in-person on this lesson and then having to do an entirely separate lesson for our remote learners. But that also allows for a seamless transition between remote learning and in-person. I think it would be naive to think that we're all going to be in-person throughout the entire year, that whether it's an individual case or a classroom or a building or the district, we understand that we may be forced into a remote situation. And so to have that kind of one-stop place with Google Classroom where everything flows through is really critical for our plans this year, and just the efficiency for teachers, but the ability for our students and parents to understand where they need to go on a regular basis.
So you said early dismissal is going to help you to do a little more for those who are not attending class, those who are online. Explain how that's going to work. What is that time in the afternoon allow
Yeah,
for?
it's a minimum of an hour right now that we have to connect. Each grade level will have different needs. With the junior high, where you have 150 students, they do have a little bit more time, so they are the first to dismiss. They dismiss at 12:30 every day, and it really allows those teachers the ability to work together and plan and coordinate, so that if you have English language arts, doing a Google Meet here and live connection with students at 1:30, you could then stagger math at, say, 2 o'clock and let the teachers work together to coordinate and plan so students don't have to choose whether to go to math on this hour or ELA if they need help with both. So our elementary, which is self-contained, it's a lot easier for those teachers to plan and coordinate what times to get on and what's needed in connecting with their classrooms, because they just deal with one class, whereas the junior high is dealing with multiple classes and a lot more students.
So are those basically tutoring sessions, or?
No, it can be a combination of both. It's, hey, this is what happened throughout the day. These are some key questions that came up. The lessons and plans will be sent out every week at the beginning of the week, but then the students will have the ability to get on daily for recorded lessons. The teachers will be posting recorded lessons. We are going to kind of limit the amount of live streaming, but there will be live streaming opportunities when it's appropriate for the social emotional context or group and just building relationships. But for the actual lessons, it's going to be through Screencastify is a program that we purchased, and will really allow the teachers to record their lessons and then post so that students in a remote situation can pull those videos up, go through the lesson, and then the daily contact or their questions. Hey, here's some things that came about from our kids today. A reminder that these activities or projects are due. We have this coming up tomorrow. But also really just, again, going back to the relationship, give our teachers and staff the ability to connect with kids. You can't be face-to-face, so the next best thing is through a virtual call or conference, and so we want to provide that opportunity.
So how about parent-teacher conferences? Or when I was growing up, it was a note that was written on the report card, which I always dreaded. How are you going to handle those?
Yeah, and there's a lot of not just parent-teacher conferences that we're still working out all the details, but even things like open house, when we used to have hundreds of families and kids come in all excited. Even those have to be staggered to minimize the amount of people in the hallway and in the classrooms. So we really had to be structured with how many people were coming in at one time for safety. But open houses that we're still trying to plan on, can we have open houses with parents coming in person? And if they're not comfortable, or if the teacher's not comfortable with the situation, to provide a virtual conference. And that's really what we're trying to do throughout the course of the year, is provide choice. That we know some parents don't believe they should send kids back right now for safety, and we have a large number that want their kids back. And we have a large number that are confused and don't know what to do right now and are scared of just everything that's going on. And so providing choice to our families is important.
So are you then viewing this on a quarterly basis? So if a parent signs up for at home, they need to be at home for a quarter, and then they can switch?
So we do. For families that are choosing remote learning, and right now we're hovering over 40% of remote learning options, they are set for the first quarter. We have to do that to plan and appropriately set up our classrooms and our rosters to ensure that one room doesn't have 23 kids and another room has 7. So getting that number in, our deadline was the 31st to sign up for remote, and they will be in for the first quarter in a remote situation. Now what we are letting happen is students and families that choose in-person learning, if something comes up or a circumstance, or they just start not feeling comfortable being in school, they can then choose the remote option. But having kids come back into school presents a lot of safety issues that we're just not comfortable with doing at this time. So for the logistics and planning and safety purposes, if they choose remote, they're in for at least 1 quarter.
How about meals? Dismissing early is part of that they'll
It
take
is.
their meal home with them?
So the junior high MG gets out at 12:30 every day, and we're going to stagger dismissals between parent pickups and the bus riders. Parent pickups will be a little bit earlier, but the kids who are getting picked up by parents will have the opportunity to go through the lunch line, grab a grab-and-go lunch, prepaid lunch. If they want to eat in the car, fine, but we wanted to limit taking the mask off in class, so our junior high kids are not eating in the classroom, they're not eating on the bus. Our bus riders are going to be able to grab a sack lunch off a bin at the front of lunch or the bus when they get off the bus. So that was kind of the compromise we came up with of let's make sure they have their mask on at all times. Just giving junior high students a lunch before the bus is going to be hard to police that, and so we figure as they get off the bus they can grab their lunch. By having the junior high students leave, it then opens up the ability for our intermediate school to use the junior high cafeteria. So they can spread out a little bit more. And then at Ellis, our elementary, they're going to use both the cafeteria and the gymnasium so they can appropriately spread out for lunchtime as well. For remote learners, we will still give them the opportunity to purchase lunch and breakfast. They would have a set time every day that they can come in. They order the lunch in the morning. We'll have a set time they come in the afternoon, pick up their lunch and breakfast for the next morning. So we'll provide meals for those who need it and want it. And then if we're in a fully remote situation like we were in the springtime, we plan on continuing to use our buses on the routes to deliver meals to the families who need it.
Any thoughts about sports or band or chorus or
Yeah.
any of those type of
For
things?
those of you in our Harmony district, we understand band and chorus and the fine arts are a big part of our curriculum and our culture and has been for a while. And so we are committed to keeping that. And thanks to our Boy Scouts who just this morning set up a 36 by 18 foot army tent that'll be for our band and chorus to utilize in the mornings or after school and even throughout the day, be able to have kids go out and have a mask break to be in the shade. We are committed. It will look different. I hate to say chorus will sound the same with masks on, but I think we all know it won't. But then with band, having sectionals, it still is much a part of our culture, and we want to keep that. And then with art, we still have art in our specials, either daily or weekly for the students. So we're still committed to having fine arts. With sports, the Bell Care Conference has canceled sports for the fall season. We'll revisit the winter sports later on in the fall. What extracurriculars we can do, we will try to do them. We want to make sure it's safe, and we're not taking risks that don't need to be taken outside of the normal school day.
Do you think your school year is going to be as long as it normally is? I mean, or do you think it may
I
be
think
shortened?
that's probably one of the bigger unknowns too. Is I think a lot of this year the calendar will probably be dictated to us by outside circumstances or whether by executive order. We have our calendar in place right now. We've added some days for remote planning days and teacher institute days. We have those as regular. So our calendar as now is still set like we normally would. But I think we're understanding that at some point it may have to change depending on executive order or where we're at with COVID.
And because 60% of your kids so far still are going to school, a snow day still will be a snow day.
Snow day is still a snow day. We don't have an approved e-learning plan, so we will still deal with those situations. The big addition this year to our calendar is the remote learning planning days. We get 5 of those. And we do plan on using. We have 3 of them scheduled in the first semester, and we'll see when we need to utilize the other 2. But we're going to need to make adjustments to our plans as we go and see what's working and what needs to be tweaked. And so those days will be valuable in helping us do that.
So what's your first day of classes?
17th. We start with the 17th with kids, and we have the 13th and 14th with teachers and staff back. So we're getting close.
Yeah, it's real close.
I would say we've not had a summer like a typical summer, so time's here, and I know I don't just speak for myself or my team, but a lot of the staff as well. We're excited to get kids back. We're in this profession because we love kids, and so to get the kids back, in a safe way is important. And we're in a different spot than some districts who've had to do a hybrid or all remote, because that remote learning option and the numbers of where we're at now has allowed us to distance kids in the classroom in a way that we wouldn't have been able to with all of our students in there. So we're fortunate that the parents who can keep their kids at home and be successful and give that support are choosing to do the remote, and we encourage that if they can do it, to stay home with your child and do that. And that helps us be able to distance and spread out our kids in the classrooms and buildings that we couldn't have done before.
And the protections are out there for the faculty.
Yes, we've purchased as much PPE as we can get, and the sanitizer, face shields for those who have medical exemptions for not wearing a mask. So yeah, I feel as ready as we can be given the circumstances, and that no one's ever been through this in history. That I have to applaud my team and staff and the board and community for how well we've prepared and worked together to try to make this work. I think there's no doubt it's going to be difficult, and there's going to be challenges that lie ahead, but in the end, we feel like we have a plan that strikes that balance between safety and education, and we're proud of it.
Sounds like a lot of hard work's going on.
It has been.
Herb?
Well, it sounds like the plan is ready to be changed if it has to be changed.
If it has to be,
of
yes.
course, to be.
Yeah.
One comment on here, Heather says she's a parent from District 175, and they've done an amazing job keeping us informed on the updates. Keep up the great work, Mr. Dietz. So
Thank you.
You do have
Means
a
a lot.
follower
Appreciate
out
that.
there, yes. So the other thing I want to point out, and as I read our comments in the evening time from what's left on here, some of the parents seem to be upset. They don't want their kids to go to school, and you've gave them that choice like
Yes.
all the other districts have. It's nothing, you're not saying you have to come to school. You just said you're encouraging parents, if they can stay at home and take care of that, that's what they should do. So I just asked the followers to understand that these administrators, the superintendents, it's a challenge. You've never
And
seen
we knew
anything like
that.
this.
We knew that going in. That no matter what, and we had several talks with the board and with our return to school task force and with the teachers and admin team, that we knew whatever plan we eventually came out with, there was going to be supporters of it, and there were going to be people who didn't agree. But again, I go back to that. There's the choice that we felt it important to offer that choice to our parents and community, and we have. So if they're not comfortable, they have the option to do remote learning. And obviously with our numbers, there's a lot of parents who are comfortable and do want their kids to go back to school and feel that they need to. And so we're at both ends of the spectrum, and I believe our plan satisfies to the best of our ability.
Good. Brian, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, there's a couple questions that have come in. A lot of them moving around technology. What about a family that can't afford to have technology, might not have internet in their home? Is there anything the district's doing to help them?
Yeah, the internet access is a tough question. When we did our last survey, and again, this was a online survey, so if you don't have internet access, you didn't have a chance to take it, but it was over 98% had responded that they had internet access at home. Now the reliability will be a question, and the speeds, and so that's something our staff will be aware of. In terms of the access to technology, we will allow our families to check out Chromebooks again. Through the CARES Act, we were able to purchase additional Chromebooks. Some of them are on back order, many of them are in district right now. We also provided that over the summertime and in the spring, that if families needed a Chromebook, they can check one out with us. But the big question is the internet access itself. If they didn't take advantage of some of the free offers in the springtime, I don't know how long those are still going, say for Charter or T-Mobile, but we are looking with the CARES money that was recently released of purchasing around 50 hotspots. Unfortunately, hotspots and Chromebooks, everyone we talk to, it's on back order until October or until the winter. So that will be tough, and we do have contingencies in our plan for if they don't have internet access, and our teachers and principals are aware of that. We have other ways of remote learning, but if parents sign up for the remote learning plan, that was part of our plan, they had to have access to reliable internet at home. We could provide a Chromebook, but the internet access and Wi-Fi was something they had to have before signing up for remote learning for the first quarter.
Okay, thank you. Another question that came in was, what is the school's plans for if a teacher would become ill?
Yeah, we will follow all the guidelines that are sent out by, and we would talk to St. Clair County Health Department, but following the IDPH guidelines, CDC guidelines, If a teacher were to come ill, yes, we would notify the students of the class and those who are in close proximity to contact tracing. But really, we're going to take our cues and a lot of that, those questions of if a child gets sick or if a teacher gets sick, the health department's going to be our first call. You know, this is the situation. Who do we need to contact, or who does the health department contact? Quarantine. I think those are answers that a lot of administrators are wanting some clarification on, and in terms of the specifics of the contact tracing and how many days. So we'll follow the guidelines as they're released and working with the St. Clair County Health Department and IDPH and CDC.
Okay. Another question about illness. What about a child that would become ill while at school?
Yeah, we do have a separate spot. In the guidance, it suggested to have a separate spot for sick children or those exhibiting symptoms, and we do have a separate area in both campuses for children that exhibit symptoms that are close to exits, so they don't have to interact or be close to other students or risk further exposure. And then the exit out of the building is very close to exterior doors.
Another question about recess. Is there any special plans? How do you
We
keep
do.
them social distance?
Yeah, at our elementary, and I know that's a big one, at our junior high and intermediate, there is no recess per se. We don't have a lot of equipment to begin with out there. But at the elementary, I know that is a big question. And right now, we do plan on letting kids go outside for limited times, but it is very structured in terms of the plan that we have a pretty big, sizable field behind Ellis Elementary, and we've divided it up into 3 zones. It's sometimes the day where we can get cleaning equipment, we'll let them use the playground equipment in small groups, and then it'll be sanitized before and after. We've purchased the equipment, we've purchased the sanitizer for it, but at times like lunchtime when there's too many kids that would have to be sharing and worrying about, they won't use the equipment. But we will have them outside, separate zones, adult supervision. We want the kids to still be kids, but in a safe way, so we've been pretty thoughtful in the plan of that, and I commend our elementary principal, Mrs. Kramer, for working with her staff and coming up with a good plan. We'll see how it goes, but we're hopeful that we can still get kids out and then clean in between.
And just one last question. What about high contact areas such as a bathroom or
Yeah, clean frequently.
obviously water fountains
Yeah.
that need to be off limits?
Water fountains, and that's part of what, we've replaced all of our water fountains. We've turned off the actual fountain, and they're all water bottle fillers, so we do need our families to bring in water bottles. Bathrooms, we've developed a cleaning schedule, and we've had training provided to our custodians of what is the appropriate cleaning, what are the supplies needed to be, how often. We're developing a plan with them, how often do those high contact areas need to be. We've completely limited any outside visitors. They can't get past the office areas. Office areas have the plexiglass panels between secretaries, 6-foot barriers. So we're really limiting how people come in, who can come in, but in high contact or high traffic areas, those are going to be cleaned frequently. And again, that goes to really being thoughtful in our planning of when classes are dismissed, how many kids are in the hallway at one time, how we stagger the schedule for even bathroom breaks. All has to be thought through now, and before we didn't.
That would be it.
Very good. We appreciate you coming in
Well, I
today.
appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Superintendent, very
Lot of-
much.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
Good. A lot of good comments on there. We'll try to get to some of the answers questions on there later on. We appreciate the superintendent coming in today like we have with all the other schools that's been doing it. As we say every day, this is a ever-changing, and it's going to change. And it sounds like these plans are able to do that. And as I said, the parents, I know everybody is concerned about the kids just the same as the teachers, principals, all the school staff. They're trying to do the best to make the best out of a worst case scenario. The numbers we talked about, Chairman, I mentioned this the other day. Those hospitalizations is another metric that we really have to watch. We went up to 58. Our vents went up the other day, like I said, so these can change overnight. So,
And the regional numbers are going up
Yes.
to a level that they have not been to for a long time. So, that's a big thing. Normally, it was St. Clair County that was driving a lot of the numbers. Now the region is catching up.
well, and I think that's some of the talk that we see on the briefing from the parents and from people who are following it is that's one of the concerns with the schools opening back up and our numbers not being down as low. If our numbers were way down where we wanted them, okay, but is opening the schools back up going to cause those numbers to go up. I wish we had that answer for you. We're not the experts. There was one question on there, the CDC or IDPH is recommending areas that have a high positivity rate should not open schools. They're suggesting not to have that, but I'm sure all of the school districts are looking at those suggestions and taking all of that in. So if everybody just let's sit tight and let the schools do the best they can. As I say all the time, they're not going to do anything foolish, and they got plans that can turn around, and they did it when this all started. They had to adjust. If something happens now, they'll have to adjust again. We had a good call today with our Chamber of Commerce. A lot of the members was on there. We shared a lot of information with them. We appreciate Wendy for all the information, putting that together, and our business community. We have to have their support, and we need that. Tomorrow's guest is going to be the superintendent of O'Fallon School District 90. We're trying to get as many of the school districts in here so you parents can ask your questions and get that done. But please, like I said, wear your mask, wash your hands, watch your social distancing, and we will get through this. I promise you, we will get through this. We just have to have everybody working together. Team St. Clair, we can do that. We'll be back in just a few moments with Cindy and Daisy to translate this into our Spanish communities, and we'll be back here tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 with our next briefing. Thank you and have a good evening.